Hello and welcome back to India on 99.94, your home of Indian cricket content. I'm Nikesh Ragani, host, commentator and broadcaster for the BBC and SEN. And Sarah Warris, my co-host, as always, of Wisden. Hi, Sarah, how are you?
I'm good. Been a good day with Shami.
It has.
Doing decent. All our fears are a little bit lesser, I would say.
Absolutely. So that will definitely be one of the things we talk about. And obviously, big week for us here. The T20 World Cup has officially kicked off with the preliminary stage, and then the Super 12s obviously kick off next weekend. India versus Pakistan, of course, on Sunday. So this is going to be the first part of several episodes this week, just building up to India's first game at the tournament and looking ahead to the T20 World Cup. So as you mentioned, Sarah, today we'll be talking about Shami, his selection into the side, first and foremost, into the squad, the 15-member squad. Since the last time we spoke, that has become official. He's not only been in the squad, he's played, he's bowled an over, he's bowled at the death, he's looked good. So we'll be discussing all of that and the merits of selecting Mohammad Shami into the side. And also, since we last spoke as well, the Indian women's side was successful, as we kind of knew they would be, in winning that Asia Cup, their 7th Asia Cup title, their first without Mithali Raj and Jhulan Goswami for this new young side. So we'll be discussing that in a lot more detail as well here on India on 99.94. So let's kick off then with Mohammad Shami. So no surprises then, right? No surprise from me. I don't think there's any surprise from you that it was official. He was named in that 15-member squad. Deepak Chahar had to pull out as well. So Shardul Thakur comes in as one of the reserve players. We did speak about that last time. And look, there were concerns. It's only the one over he's bowled in the warm-up game against Australia. Thrilling victory for India, by the way. As little as the game meant itself, it was played in a very sort of training ground like mentality, wasn't it? But important over for Shami, 3 wickets for him, 4 in the over for India, and he did the job that was asked of him at the death, despite not having bowled in the rest of the innings as well. So he's proving the doubters wrong quite early, isn't he?
Yeah, as I told you earlier, why do we need Bumrah? Shami is here, obviously in jest. But yeah, obviously we shouldn't jump the gun because 1 over practice match. But just to defend 10 or 11 runs in the final over, and then that superb catch from Virat Kohli in the end, and the 3 wickets which he took, of course, the run out also. At least that will give the Indian team a little bit of confidence that, they have been terrible at defending targets. So little bit of confidence, plus they are Australia. It was a full strength Australian team almost. So yeah, just hope that, the bowling especially can get a little bit of momentum from here and just go forward.
Yeah, so, I mean, just in case, look, I'm sure most people listening are across at least the scores, India defending that 186 that they made batting first. But just to sort of talk you through Shami's wickets in case you haven't seen them. So a couple of sneering Yorkers, which is what we all want to see in the final over of the innings from all of India's bowlers who bowl in that role at the death. So a couple of brilliant Yorkers, clean bowling the batters on those occasions. And that catch from Virat Kohli as well, it was a sort of Yorker that was just slightly not in the slot, almost in the slot for the batter, really. Or, batters batting deep in the crease. So it was almost Yorker length. Managed to cream it over towards long on, and Kohli with a one-handed effort just jumping up off the ground. And it's one of those that looks spectacular, was spectacular. And then the run out in that over as well. So ball was hammered back to Shami. Shami turns round, direct hit at the non-striker's end. And there you go. India 4 in 4 to finish off the game as a team. And it is a warm-up match, but it was good to see those Yorkers in at least those couple of deliveries, those wickets. And just the fact that he was going to the Yorker more often than not, I think is a good sign as well. Look, the concern that we had for Shami coming into this side is his economy rate overall in T20 internationals. He's only played the 17 matches, which is, it's not that many when you consider he's played 82 ODIs, he's played 60 test matches as well. He's not really been the man who's been in favour that often in T20 internationals. So there is that. And his economy rate is very high, 9.54 across his 17 matches as well. He's just the 18 wickets. So, standard, almost a wicket a game as far as that is concerned. Were we right to be concerned about that? Because where he bowls in T20 internationals is in the power play and at the death. So, I mean, you look at it just off the face of it and you compare him with maybe, I don't know, Harshal Patel or something, who's more sort of comes into the game in the middle overs when the field is spread and, the batters are looking just to build a little bit more often than not. Were we a little bit harsh just to look at that and think, well, he's a bit expensive, or do you understand that given the times that he bowls in?
I think it's decent that obviously we are a little concerned about India's overall death bowling, and even though he's been selected, I somehow don't think that Shami is the death bowler that India were looking for. Just before we get into a little more about Shami and all that he brings and doesn't bring to the table, I just came across this one quote which Dravid very recently said that, we've been clear about the squad that we wanted. 15 players who've played decent amount of cricket in the past. So Shami obviously hasn't played a single T20I since the World Cup last year. Uh, and his quote again just proves that Shami wasn't even in the plans till probably, the Asia Cup where India just had that horror show, and probably they were a little worried about the fitness levels also of Bumrah. So they just then got him back and just included him in the team. So uh, the fact that Indian team didn't have Shami in the plans shows that the role like which is at the death, because they have the new ball bowlers, there's Bhuvi, even Chahar can chip in. The main issue was death bowling. Obviously there's Arshdeep now, but just to have an extra option. So they weren't really considering him in either of that role, and in the death bowling role, which says a lot. And the fact that they've got him now almost just like a desperate attempt to just get experience in the side. And also this IPL, he had a wonderful IPL. We say he's not played a T20I, but he's played T20 matches. He played the whole season for Gujarat. He was very successful, picked up 20 wickets, had an economy of around 8, which is his best in terms of wickets and in terms of average over all the years. Most importantly, in the power play, he had a strike rate of 6.62, which is phenomenal, again, proving that he's an excellent bowler up front. But at the death, it just increases, like his economy was 10.85. So, again, India have got him as the death bowler. Is he really the answer to India's death bowling troubles? I'm not very sure. He just bowled 14 overs in the death compared to 40 overs in the power play. So, again, is he the death bowler? But if he's not the death bowler, then who is your death bowler? I don't see Harshal making the cut if Shami plays. What is the three seamers that you would go in with for the game against Pakistan?
Well, it's a good question. In terms of the death, look, we're not asking somebody to necessarily bowl 2 overs. He just needs to bowl 1 over, doesn't he? He needs to bowl either the 19th or maybe the 20th, depending on if you're batting first or batting second. If you're defending, then usually that 19th over is the most crucial, because then you want to leave enough for your, not your number one death bowler, I suppose, to defend in the 20th over. So Arshdeep would be bowling generally, if India were bowling first, for example, Arshdeep would then be bowling your 18th and your 20th, and Shami your 19th, which I think can work. But then, yeah, you do get into some difficulty because then you don't want him having to bowl two at the death, and you don't want to bowl Arshdeep too early as well. So that combination kind of becomes a bit tricky towards the end. If you're having Arshdeep bowling the 19th, then he can only bowl the 17th, and then somebody else has to come in for the 18th, which could prove a problem. And whether that is Shami and he bowls the 18th and 20th, we don't know. Shami will play, I think, in that first match, just because they want the experience, like we said. Arshdeep has to play because he's the only other death option.
Yeah.
And then I think they'll go with Bhuvi as the third frontline seamer, just because of what he offers with the new ball. And if you have got those death overs kind of covered with Shami, albeit not ideal death bowler, but good enough, you'd hope, and Arshdeep, then Bhuvi can bowl up top, maybe three, and then one in the middle. And then you've got the spin to come in there as well, and Hardik Pandya. So
yeah.
I think Shami will play, and the fact that he's had that over, it's good for his confidence as well. I think going into the World Cup proper as well, that first game against Pakistan. Hopefully he'll carry on in India's second warm-up game as well. And we'll wait and see. But yeah, I think he definitely plays. I, having seen him as well, would be inclined to play him just because of the options that are there. And there's not much better choice, is there, really?
Yeah, and also the fact that Shami is kind of bring some pace into the attack, because all the others are medium pacers. So at least there is some kind of someone who can bowl in the 140s. Again, Umran Malik should have been there, but yeah, that's hopefully for the next time. Also with Harshal Patel, I think we could have probably spoken about this in the episode where we spoke a bit about him standalone episode. We missed the fact that we spoke about his IPL records, but the fact that he got most of his wickets on a little sluggish, those pitches in Chennai and in the UAE. I think that's a major reason that he was successful there. And this year, when the IPL shifted to Mumbai, he wasn't as successful. Last year in Mumbai, like if you just compare the stats in Chennai, he did much better than he did in Mumbai. So that's also a major factor, which I think like pitches, somehow he does better if the pitches are a little slow, and the Chennai kind of pitches or the ones in UAE. So yeah, probably playing in Australia won't really suit his strength, like what we've seen in the past. So I would also go in with the same uh, pace attack which you mentioned, Shami, Hardik as the all-rounder, and Bhuvi and Arshdeep, obviously.
Absolutely. Just before we carry on and discuss the rest of the warm-up match, I suppose, against Australia, we're going to take a short break here, and we'll be back on the other side to discuss that in more detail.
You're listening to Cricket's Conversation on 99.94. Whatever your team, we have the show for you on podcast, YouTube, or on the 99.94 app. We have India, England, South Africa, West Indies, and now Sri Lanka covered. If you want to find us, the best way is to follow us on social media at 9994DM by downloading the 9994 app or Google 99.94 on podcast. We speak cricket.
So, Sarah, the over from Shami winning it for India in the end. But with the bat, once again, contributions from the whole top order. I mean, there was a situation early on, wasn't there, where KL Rahul was on about 42 or something, and Rohit Sharma had not yet scored.
Yeah.
I know he farmed a lot of the strike during that time as well. But 57 from 33, again, from Rahul, against a very good attack from Australia. Stark, Cummins, Richardson, Maxwell. They had all the big guns out, didn't they, really? And he delivered once more.
Yeah, about Surya Kumar Yadav, I know he scored 50 and
Yep.
33 balls today. Um, I was just looking, like, I just came across this one tweet where there's a video of him just before his dismissal. He's like, "Marne ka mood nahi ho raha hai," which means I'm not in the mood to hit. From coming from someone who scored 50 and 33 with a strike rate of 151. That's just
It's quite
hilarious. Like,
sluggish from
you've
him, isn't
already
it?
done your bit,
It's
yeah.
like a little net
And the
session.
very next ball, yeah, and the very next ball he was dismissed. Yeah, going back to Rahul, it's so encouraging to see, the way he's been playing off late, and I just hope he can carry it forward also. When he's batting this way, he's such a, treat to watch. So I hope he can obviously carry this form forward in the
Absolutely, yeah.
World Cup.
And look, everyone got a knock as well. Hardik Pandya was the only failure, really, 2 from 5. We won't read too much into that. He's been hitting it pretty well of late. DK got a nice little knock as well, 20 from 14. Akshar and Ashwin as well coming in at the end. I suppose looking at the bowling combinations as well, that is going to be another battle, isn't it? Is it going to be Chahal? Is it going to be Ashwin? Is it going to be Akshar? Is it going to be 2 out of the 3 playing? What would you go with in that first match against Pakistan? Just given the way that they've been bowling of late, the way they perform on certain types of pitches in certain conditions, I suppose the experience of somebody like an Ashwin, despite how many left-handers a side might have playing, who'd you go with? I mean, Akshar
I
didn't
would go in
bowl.
with Ashwin. Yeah. I think Akshar will still play because obviously he's, that number 7 batter.
Didn't bowl
But
today,
if it's a
though.
toss up
Didn't bowl
between,
today.
probably they were testing Ashwin and Chahal, and they knew that, okay, Akshar is uh, a must there, and, just trying out who amongst Ashwin and Chahal can be the better option. Chahal went for 9.3 runs and over, Ashwin went for 7 runs and over, so that could be factored in. Uh, Pakistan generally struggle against off spinners, even though they don't have a lot of like left-handers, but they struggle against off spinners. So, um, the like, I would favor Ashwin there, obviously because of his defensive bowling. Also, a lot of people don't like that in their team. They want wicket takers, but somehow I'm tilted towards Ashwin.
And by the way, what happens now? Is it, with Pakistan having sort of beaten India in a World Cup game for the very first time, albeit T20, so they've still not won in an ODI World Cup. But after what happened last time, what happens to all the TV ads and stuff? Does that still carry on over there? Is that Mocha is surely
Yeah,
gone, right?
that Mocha ad has
Yeah.
stopped. It's no more. Yeah, there's this very nice ad of. It's a very surprising ad, surprisingly nice ad, with Virat Kohli there, and they're talking about, how it's been a long wait since the World Cup, and there's another ad promo for India Pakistan where they're just reliving that Pakistan match, and they are so disheartened, and one kid is like, please, win and help us forget the memories of the last encounter. So it's a subtle and a more subdued ad this time.
So it's more about revenge
which is
this
very
time, isn't it, than anything else?
Yeah.
Okay. Interesting. Yeah, because that ad, I think it first came about, was it 2015 World Cup?
2015.
Yeah, because I was out there in Australia covering that one, and I remember just seeing it all over YouTube and everywhere, and there were several versions of it, and it was just brilliant. I just the fireworks, and it was just so well thought out. But it carried on and it carried on, and the Pakistanis got more and more annoyed as the years ticked over, and yeah, it's no more.
I remember during the 2017 Champions Trophy, I think that's when, Star just lost it. It was a little disrespectful to 2017 Champions Trophy. Not ironically, coincidentally was on Father's Day.
Yes.
I think, yeah. So, there was this ad where, Bap, like India is your dad, in world events and all that. And then Pakistan, just went on and defeated India. So
Reminds me of when
star coped a lot.
it reminds me of when Sehwag had a run-in with Shoaib Akhtar, and eventually just basically said that
Shoaib
Sachin's
Akhtar
your bap.
But Shoaib Akhtar has denied that. He said that nothing like that was
well,
ever said
wouldn't
to him.
he? He would. If you were like, 150, 160 mile an hour bowler and somebody had just dissed you like that, then you'd probably deny it, wouldn't you? It's not a good look for a quick bowler. We won't take... look, cricketers can sort of make things sound a lot more sexy than they were as they happen on the field, and often with time as well. These stories, they add a few little things just to make it sound funnier or better or whatever. But if I'm going to take one of those guys' words, it's probably going to be Sehwag. Sehwag's a funny guy.
Yeah.
It's not out of character for him to say stuff like that. It doesn't get wound up too much on the field. Usually just whistling away, whistling his Bollywood tunes and stuff, and just taking it easy out there. So never really gets in a scrap with anyone. But I reckon he probably said that. And anyway, Sachin, the way he played that hook for six off show, which prompted that supposed comment, he just proving that basically he was his bap anyway on that occasion. So that was all good. But yeah, there's lots of banter like just that we've mentioned there. There's so much hype, there's so much tension, and it's good to see. Look, India's batting has been clicking for quite some time. That was what came undone ultimately against Pakistan last time. Yeah, it was 152 without loss, whatever. But when you're only scoring 150 in those conditions like they were at least 20, 30 short. If Babar and Rizwan had to go harder earlier on, it could have been a different story. They would have taken more risks. They would have had to take more risks, and India, in turn could have had more wickets, could have been a closer game. So ultimately it was the batting, those 2 early wickets, and great bowling from Shaheen to peg us back early on, which really caused that defeat. And whatever Kohli could do in the end wasn't good enough despite that half century. But it's good to see the batting at least consistent, isn't it? Since then, it's been really consistent. I suppose the only issue is that Shaheen's back now, and he'll play if he's fit. If he doesn't get any kind of recurrence of any of the injuries that he's had of recent times, and that's a bit of an unknown because they didn't come up against him in the Asia Cup as well. Should they be concerned about Shaheen, or is it just, look, see ball, hit ball?
Yeah, obviously they should be concerned. Just let me dig up one stat on Rohit versus left-handers. I think Rohit has just...
Well, don't dig up the one on Kohli versus left-arm seam, because that is who he scores and averages the least against across all white ball cricket as well. So, Kohli doesn't enjoy the left-arm seam. And if you're gonna tell me Rohit is in that camp too as well, that doesn't bode well. Obviously, Rohit, one of those 2 wickets that Shaheen got in the last World Cup as well. So yeah, we won't pay too much heed to stats, but tell us if you must.
Yep. So the stat is Rohit has been dismissed 14 times by left-arm pacers in T20I power play overs alone, which, is a very scary stat for an Indian. Just in the power play overs alone, he's been dismissed 14 times. Or 19 overall, but, it's a real threat. And as much as, you want to deny it and overlook it, but the threat is real. And the fact that, Shaheen is back, and obviously the scars of last World Cups still remain because no one expected that to happen. But yeah, so it's a real fear, and I just hope that I don't know how Rohit is going to,
he saw out.
Yeah.
He at least, he didn't face too many deliveries early on today, but Mitchell Starc didn't get him out in the practice match. So that's a positive at least. But look, Shaheen is in the absence of Bumrah, he's the best fast bowler in the tournament, isn't he? If he's fit and if he's bowling at anywhere near his best, he's the biggest threat to any team, really. So yeah, that the threat is real anyway, despite anyone's sort of failures against left arm seam. But it's 14 times, and Rohit Sharma
in the power play overs alone.
But 19 overall, right?
Yeah.
So 14 in the power play. But how many left armers would he have faced in his 134 innings? So
yeah,
120 innings where he wasn't. So let's take the positives. 120 innings where he hasn't been dismissed by left arm pacers in the power play, and most teams have a left arm pacer.
Yeah, an Indian fan just can't remain positive now after all the setbacks in ICC events. It's somehow, what will go wrong now. So
it's the hope that kills you, isn't it?
My hopes are at an all-time low now, because I'm just no hoping, because I've been disappointed enough by the women's team, men's team.
The women's team got some glory as well, as we'll discuss it in a few moments' time as well. But look, whatever happens, we'll have more build-up for you throughout the rest of the week as well. So do stay tuned for that. We'll have a sort of generic look at India's side and some of the players in more depth in the middle of this week. And then at the end of the week, we will be looking ahead to India versus Pakistan and have a full preview for you, the best preview that you will be able to listen to right here on India on 99.94. We're going to take a short break now, and on the other side, we'll be looking at the Women's Asia Cup triumph.
If you love the language of cricket and want more, then head over to the 99.94 app, and you can hear all of our podcasts and cricket commentary. We're adding new shows all the time and covering cricket series from all over the world. Be the first to hear all of our announcements by following us on social media at 9994DM. Welcome to Cricket's Conversation.
So they did it, Sarah. India's women lifting a trophy for the first time since the retirements of both Mithali Raj and Jhulan Goswami as well. They've been with these two. They've won Asia Cups with these two previously, of course. They've been to World Finals with those two as well, and haven't quite got over the line. This seems like an important moment. It's a 7th title. They've only not won one Asia Cup. They were runners-up last time against Bangladesh. Apart from that, they've won every single time. There's a massive gulf in the quality overall between India and the rest of the Asian side. So they were bound to win it. They were favourites to win it. But it just shows to me that this side, this young Indian side, it's a big moment for them. New leadership, new talent coming through as well. I think this is going to be important for them, just for that belief of winning a major title without the experience like I've just mentioned.
Yeah, and if you count the positives, the biggest positive not only in this Asia Cup but last few months has been Renuka Singh. She's just been brilliant. Even in the final, she ended with 3, 4, 5, which is phenomenal. Renuka Singh has a T20I average of 19, economy of 5, ODI average of 14, economy of 4.6. Obviously, it's early days, but we've spoken about, the possible replacements for Jhulan Goswami. And, to just see her coming up and performing well across conditions, across different teams, so soon after Jhulan Goswami's retirement is a positive step, because is a big positive, because India have struggled with pacers. Like they've relied more on their spinners. So yeah, the emergence of Renuka, I think, is the biggest positive. So what were the biggest positives for you from the Asia Cup?
Well, there's obviously her leading that fast bowling attack as well. Smriti's form continued. I suppose the biggest positive was that despite losing to Pakistan, despite Harmanpreet Kaur messing around with experiments and stuff, I suppose at least some of the players did get that exposure. So that's a positive. They got the exposure to those pressure situations. She rested herself for a couple of games as well, which was interesting. Smriti got to lead, so that's another great thing, that she got to captain at a tournament in pressure situations as well. And Dipti Sharma just keeps doing it, doesn't she? Player of the tournament. Kind of goes under the radar a little bit when you talk about the Smritis and the Harmanpreets and the Renukas and all the rest of them, the Jemimas and, you know, all these star names. Dipti Sharma, she's more than just a run-out machine, isn't she? She's a brilliant all-rounder, and she's proving it once again, opening the bowling, taking wickets, keeping it tight, useful middle-order runs as always. Just a brilliant cricketer to have in any side.
And, you know, just a day before the final of the Asia Cup, there was this whole incident with Mitchell Stark, and he was like, the whole run out thing again came up, and he tried to, for those who don't know, he warned Joss Butler for backing up early, and then while walking back to his run up, he said, I'm not Dipti, but I can do it. You know, he got a lot of flack for it, kind of, you know, showing that, you know, I don't know what he meant by that. Probably, you know, I'm not as unsporting as her. I'm trying to warn you here, or whatever it meant. But he got a lot of flack for that. And just one day afterwards, Dipti Sharma came, and, you know, brilliant effort in the final. And she ended the Asia Cup with a Player of the Series award, had a bowling average of 7, had a batting strike rate of 132 through the tournament, picked up 13 wickets. So, you know, the world is still talking about that run out, but she's coming again and showing that she's so much more than just that run out. And
yeah, maybe I saw your tweet, and he should be more like Dipti. And you know, it's just a shame that people sort of decide almost by themselves that they are sort of the guardians of the spirit of the game, whatever that means these days, and their morals are so much higher than what Dipti Sharma did. And it's become a bit of a cultural war, hasn't it? And even those words, just sort of mentioning culture, seems to offend people. But it's mainly England fans, and I know it was against England that this happened, the run out of Charlie Dean. And England thought they were in with a chance of pulling off a dramatic victory. It was at Lord's as well, which I think made a massive difference. If it was at Grace Road or, you know, some outground somewhere, Tunbridge Wells or where, you know, the moral thing might not have quite come into it as much. I love Lord's, and I also hate Lord's in the same way, because they suck all the fun out of everything. There's so much tradition. They still think it's the home of cricket in terms of that's what it's known as and the traditions and all that, but it's not really the home of cricket. You know, the cricket moved to Dubai, didn't it? The ICC moved to Dubai many years ago, and that's the home of cricket. They control cricket. They control world cricket now. The control isn't with the MCC and at Lord's, and the ICC doesn't have their meetings there anymore. It just annoys me, that whole stuffy nature of it. I love it as well because of the history, and it's a fantastic ground, and you know, there's a great aura when you go there. But then the fact that you go and you go to a match there, you look around, everyone's in chinos and shirts, and you know, there's no colour, there's no atmosphere. The atmosphere is rubbish, always is, apart from maybe when the women play, which is very rare. It was 2017 World Cup final. It was the final game of the series this time around in the ODIs between India and England. So, you know, apart from when the women play, the atmosphere is rubbish. So yeah, there's a kind of love-hate thing with me and a lot of people with Lord's, and I think that had something to do with it as well. But look, at the end of the day, she's been brilliant. She'll continue to be brilliant.
Just a quick question. I didn't ask this last time. I probably should have. You know what, in England, amongst your colleagues, what was the overall reaction to this run out? Because a lot of journalists in England, they weren't in favor of it. Even so what was the general, were they against it, in favor of it?
I'd say most were. There were some who were trying to be objective, as a journalist should be, but with social media these days, it's difficult to be. I mean, look, even people like myself, I can be accused of not being objective because I was in favour of it, but that's just simply because it's in the rules and it's part of the laws of the game, and it is what it is. And by the way, anyone listening who thought, oh, it was moved from the unfair section of the law book to now runouts, the reason it was in the unfair section wasn't because it's an unfair dismissal, it's because it's unfair for the batter to leave their crease early. That's why. That's why it was in the unfair section. So just to get that straight as well. But look, the general consensus, I don't know if you saw Sky Sport, you were getting the world feed coverage and Dominic Cork was on there and he got a lot of stick for what he was saying. And, Lydia Greenway, who I've worked with numerous times, she wasn't in favour of it. She's obviously a former England player, World Cup winner. So, a bit more sympathy with the side, I suppose, from a player's point of view. Overall, I'd say most journalists were coming out and talking about the unsporting nature, which wasn't very helpful. There were some who were staying on the fence. There was Daniel Norcross, our colleague here on England on 99.94, my colleague at the BBC and at SEN as well, and just an all-round good bloke. He was on commentary on TMS at the time, and he was very, very straight with it. He said, look, it's an anticlimax, which it was, because, it was heading towards a great finish, and it didn't end that way, and the crowd went quiet and all that kind of stuff. There were boos. It wasn't that thrilling finish that we expected, but he'd like to see the rules change so that if you are stealing ground, you should perhaps be penalised a run every time, and the third umpire should be checking that every ball, and, just bringing different things into it just to make it a more simple thing, and then it wouldn't be such a controversial thing if somebody was run out in that manner. So he was very objective about it, as he always is with many things, and there were a couple like that as well. Izzy Westbury I think she found it quite funny. You've mentioned Izzy on this podcast before as well, writer, broadcaster from the UK as well. She's always good fun, and she just found it quite funny and thought it was great that it happened at Lord's. So that was quite tongue-in-cheek. But yeah, look, the general reaction from England, especially from fans, I was getting texts from friends who are England cricket supporters who just hated that. And I just replied with, well, you shouldn't be trying to nick ground as well.
One question before we wrap up. Would you have the same reaction if that happened to an Indian?
I would have the same reaction because, as I mentioned before, I did it when I was playing junior cricket, and I did warn in the first instance, but only because I was told that it was in the laws of the game that I had to warn. Yeah. But it wasn't, was it? It was just in the spirit of the game. So I used to always warn. Well, not always. It's not like I used to do it every week, but I probably did it 3 or 4 times in my career. And I wasn't really I was a batter who bowled a bit. So I wasn't bowling necessarily every game, particularly as I got older. But look, I did it, and if I could do it, then I've got nothing to say, have I? So even though I was warning in the first instance as well, and they just kept doing it. So yeah, look, if it happened against India, whoever, if it was a World Cup final and it happened against India, don't get out of your crease until the ball's been bowled, or if it's a fast bowler, until just before it's been bowled, until you're sure that they're not going to stop and try and run you out. You got to be aware of these things. And, it's just one of those things. But anyway, Dipti Sharma, we shall try not to talk about runouts every time we talk about you. Look, she was brilliant, deserved player of the tournament in the Asia Cup, and well done to India's women on that 7th triumph. So off to the WBBL go the likes of Jemmy and 1 or 2 others, and looking ahead to the T20 World Cup as well next year. It's good signs for India. So we wish the women well. We'll continue to talk about them as the IPL approaches and we get more details about the women's IPL as well. But as I say, for the rest of the week, we're going to be focusing on the men's T20 World Cup. It's underway. India ticking down to that game against Pakistan, and we've got you covered here on India on 99.94. So do stay tuned. Subscribe on YouTube, on your podcast feed. Download the 99.94 app. Get in touch with us. Rate us. Just be around for the best coverage possible throughout the T20 World Cup. Thanks for listening, and do join us again next time.